Good Thursday morning, Roger Hill of Wuthering Heights. This weather video driven by 802cars.com, representing 802 Toyota, Twin City Subaru, and 802 Honda, all located off of exit 7 on Interstate 89. Well, we're looking at a very warm day today with dew point temperatures on the increase. We're already seeing low 60s across a pretty wide area now. These dew point temperatures will probably make a climb up into the low to mid 60s, and that'll be sufficient for thunderstorms to develop. That is coupled with temperatures that are also be relatively warm. We're talking temperatures easily into the mid 80s and more like upper 80s to lower 90s across many of our local valleys. Slightly cooler, of course, across the intermediate hill country and higher terrain. Convective available potential energy is starting to creep in. This is associated with updrafts and strength of updrafts. Stronger the Cape, the more severe the thunderstorms. Then we have winds to worry about as well. So we have 500 millibar thicknesses with the ridge of higher pressure, this big heat ridge here. We have a lot of humidity working in. These are the current temperatures. And these red arrows you see here, these are the higher wind fields, and it looks like these higher winds are going to stay a little to our north until very late in the day. Some of this over the Ohio River Valley is going to advect in, and that's what's going to be in play here with our strong updrafts tapping into the stronger winds. That's problematical. The question is, where do the thunderstorms form? Because where the storms form will steal some of that moisture as well as some of that uplift. Okay, starting with the 06Z NAM. This is where the convective thunderstorms will form. Notice this kind of a long string here coming out of the Ohio River Valley and reforming southeast of Lake Ontario. I think this might be an area to pinpoint for local convection to form and then have it track into the Adirondacks. And this is what it does. So as it forms, tracks into the Adirondacks and then crosses into central Vermont, mostly Addison and Rutland County, and then it tracks south. And this is where the strongest cells would be more than likely. Now up to the north, you're also looking at the cold frontal action, where there's going to be more widely distributed showers and thunderstorms, but they're going to stay out of our hair, and it's largely going to miss northern areas. This is already 11 o'clock in the evening. So going back 3 hours, this is valid from 8 o'clock through 11 o'clock, and this would pinpoint the strongest potential for thunderstorms here. Then roughly by 2 o'clock in the morning, you can see another batch forming off of Lake Ontario through the Adirondacks. They get into northern Vermont, kind of fall apart a little bit, and then stay together with the cold front, and the cold front swings south during the morning hours on Friday into the early afternoon and very late in the day and so forth. That's one school of thought. This is based off 0Z. This is Storm Prediction Center's WRF model. And it's very good for convection, so this is their school of thought. And roughly here, we're already around noon. That's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then you can see something forming over the Adirondacks and then working its way toward the Addison County region. So high peaks of the Adirondacks and points west, the southern shore of Lake Ontario might be the pinpoint area to sort of figure this out. By 4 o'clock or so, we're starting to see some cells develop. They're fairly isolated or widely scattered in nature. And then we have this blob that begins to develop and then move in across mainly central and southern portions of Vermont, skipping northern areas altogether. And then overnight, we get into the cold front. Another round moves on through. And yet a third little wave here. And there's some indication here that the model wants to develop a bow. So some pretty strong wind fields pushing this along. And this is during the overnight period. Okay, this is the short-range ensemble forecast, and this is valid right now through 2 o'clock in the afternoon. This is chances for thunderstorm activity, and everything stays to the west and to the north of the region. But it develops, this is by 5 o'clock, so roughly as we approach 5 o'clock, and then into Vermont. Still looking like it does skip the far northern areas, and then it begins to fall apart. This is by 11 o'clock in the evening, and this looks probably the most reasonable at this point. So just to run that back, So here's where we are early this afternoon and into the evening. Okay, and this is the in-car wharf model lightning threat. And this is noon. So this is 2 o'clock. That's 4 o'clock. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, midnight. 2 separate bands coming through a lot quicker. Lot to choose from. Okay, this is the 06Z Velco Wharf model. This is valid at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Noting just some low DBZ here. This is reflectivity via radar now. This is what the Velco Wharf 06Z model thinks at this point. And we start to pop a thunderstorm here in the Champlain Valley over Chittenden County. It's very isolated in coverage. This is about 5:40 p.m. Some of that comes off the high peaks of the Adirondacks into northern Rutland, southern Addison County. Meanwhile, that cell continues to track toward the Northeast Kingdom. This is 6:50 p.m. tonight, finally 7 o'clock. The main action, kind of illustrating the point, it looks like it's going to be more of a southern Vermont situation here, but this is going to be happening probably as we get toward dark. And last but not least, the HRRR model, high resolution rapid refresh. We'll start to see something form off the southern end of Lake Ontario. I still think this is probably the key to the goods here. This is valid about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That's 4 o'clock, 5. No worries until we pop a cell here. Probably that's at 6 o'clock or so. The note, a lot of this action heads more east instead of northeast. And into central and southern Vermont by 8 o'clock. And then exiting the state. Meanwhile, the main action is up in the St. Lawrence Valley, sort of breaking apart, and so forth. A lot of things to choose from here. Very difficult forecast for convection, as usual. Roger Hill, Wuthering Heights.